Hiya, guys, and welcome back to the Average Pundits podcast, your home of all things Premier League. We hope you had a very good Christmas. I think we both did as well. And as you can see, I am joined again by Reese. He was out of last week's episode. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. We did a little mid-season review with the boys from Nothing But Football. But we are now back to where we belong as a duo. How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Last week was I really enjoyed last week's. Alex and Alfie did a cracking job,
Yeah.
as they always do. If you haven't checked them out, I don't exactly know what you guys are doing. So definitely go and check those out there. I mean, Alex is just an encyclopedia for football. He's got a massive brain on him. So, but yeah, it's really good to be back. Out last week, dealing with a few personal things, as everyone does this year. This year's been a bit tough on everyone, so everyone deals with stuff. So just make sure. I mean, the Christmas period kind of lightens things up. So let's get back into the things and let's get back into this massive topic because that's why I'm back.
Yeah, and a big topic is kind of an understatement, isn't it? I mean, we're now trying to go through our team of the year as the
Mm-hmm.
first half of the podcast. Then we're going to move on to a little second segment we've got later on. But team of the year to start off with, in probably what's been one of the weirdest years in terms of sports ever. Obviously, we started the year all well and good in the second half of the 1920 season, and now, straight bang in the middle, we're hit with a global pandemic, which has halted all sports from all categories all around the world. And now we're kind of in the new season trying to deal with the onslaught of that. We're still seeing games being postponed. We're still seeing players test positive. Still a lot of controversy around sport being played during the pandemic. But we will leave that to you guys to discuss on our social media when we are going through our team of the year. Reese, do you want to kick us off with who we've got in the goalkeeper position?
So there were a couple nominations, I think, but I do think there's only one real big name that we kind of agreed on. I think it's important to mention both of these teams that we put out today for the team of the year and the team of the season so far were both previously agreed on, and to be honest, there was no real argument, was there? And
Not
we
really, but the team of the year especially. There was maybe a couple of like decisive decision makings, but we were kind of in the same lane for the majority of all categories.
It was very straightforward, and I think this one was probably one of the most straightforward ones for this team, and that was Allison, who
Yeah,
had an injury-filled year. He came back after Adrian had done a shift the year prior, and he filled in
yeah.
again. He looked like
Mm.
he was on top of the world. He helped us win, help Liverpool win the league, and then started the season off fantastic again. And I mean, yeah, injured again, but it was a minor one, and he's come back, stronger. So Allison is probably one of the better choices for. I don't think anyone else really is near him.
Well, I mean, I think the only other keepers who really shone in, especially well last season for me, obviously Dean Henderson made a lot of waves at Sheffield, and Nick Pope I think did exceptionally well at Burnley. But you can't take it away from Allison, Premier League winner. And at the end of the day, the silverware. I mean, although it's not everything when analysing certain players, but if you have a great season in your position and you're also winning silverware, it's kind of undeniable. As we will see a trend in this team, Liverpool players, they have been quite abundant in this season. So Allison in goal, I think, was a pretty solid choice for goalkeeper. I don't think there was much argument there, was there?
Allison is in fact one of I think 7 Liverpool players we have in this team of the year. So I think it's very different when it comes to the team of the season so far,
Yeah,
as people will see. Like we have a lot of surprising names in there,
yeah,
and it because it comes down to statistics. But if we're looking at a year so far, you do have to put in the performances through both the 1920 and the beginning of this season so far. I
yeah.
think Allison, no one touches him. I think he's going to probably go down as one of the best Premier League goalkeepers of all time.
I think if he stays at Liverpool, if Liverpool have the faith in him, which they're definitely showing now, there's no reason why he couldn't ascend to those kind of levels. I mean, right now he's definitely in the best keeper in a conversation. I think a lot of people would hold him in that position. I think if you look into Europe, a couple of other names come in. I think Jan Oblak is the main one over at Atletico Madrid, and then you've had amazing comeback kind of periods from like Manuel Neuer, who's again Champions League winning goalkeeper, playing in some of the best football of his career. And then you've also got like Ter Stegen. There's loads of names we could mention, but Alisson for the Premier League, I think that was a solid choice for goalkeeper.
Definitely.
But moving on, if we're talking about the fullbacks now, the right back position again, that's sticking with the Liverpool trend, I believe.
Yes, we are going to Merseyside for this one. I think again, it's not really arguable as to who we put here. There are two other names that we could have put here, but Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be our right back for this.
Yeah.
I guess we should have also mentioned that we were playing the 4-3-3 formation for this. Kind of taking the model from Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher's team of the season when they did it on Sky Sports. They filled the 4-3-3, which is basically the most common formation used at the moment, isn't it?
I think it's the most common formation, and also I think when you're analysing a team of the season, it can often be the fairest as well. You get a wide array of positions in there, no real positions left out. So I feel like 4-3-3 is a good way to look at it.
So yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, he is fantastic. He has a lot of qualities that are very fantastic. His passing ability, we can always credit him for that. And I think that even you, the Manchester United fan, are a massive fan of his passing ability. I think
Yeah.
only Kevin De Bruyne and potentially Bruno could rival that. But the thing is, Trent's he's only just hit his early 20s.
Yeah, I mean, as a player, and that's the thing with a lot of this Liverpool team, like obviously Liverpool, I hate them, but a lot of the players they've got right now, it's more of a case of just undeniable talent. And Trent, obviously, an English player, he's going to be a real benefit to the England team coming up in the future. And like you said, he's so early on in his career. And I mean, this was something that we mentioned in last week's podcast when I was talking to Alex and Alfie, whether we put so much pressure on our youth. I know we've had this conversation before in the past, and whether we put a lot of pressure on Trent to kind of, he's already showing signs he could be the best in the world and stuff like that in that position, but is there too much on his shoulders, and will it possibly hinder his development? But fingers crossed not, because like you said, he's so young right now and he's already firing on all cylinders. He's scoring goals, he's assisting, he's doing really good. So I think he's going to be a Liverpool mainstay. I think he's going to be a Premier League mainstay. And I think, as long as Liverpool can hold on to him and nurture the talent there, I think they've got themselves arguably the best right back on in the world in that position at any given time.
I think there are a few qualities he does lack at the moment, but he is young. He's not the most offensive right back in the world. He's very attacking minded. I think that's where the defensive qualities of like an Aaron Wan-Bissaka maybe top him in a defensive state of mind, but overall as a player, Trent Alexander-Arnold this year has been unstoppable. That he's been a bit shaky this season so far, but I don't think that's kind of hindered where he sits overall as 2020 is concerned.
Yeah, I think Liverpool, if we're looking at the season already, they still sit top of the league. They've had a lot of injury problems, so I think right now, to keeping all that in consideration, he's done a really good job to stay as good as he is in that right back position. And the conversation's no different at left back, is it? We're still sticking with Liverpool.
Yeah, I think this player is basically what Trent Alexander-Arnold is hoping to get to. I do think that this man is just above Trent in a sense of footballing ability and also defensive ability when it comes to the left back position, and that's Andrew Robertson. The Scot he's phenomenal. It's a shame that he does play for Scotland because England have had a history of not having great left backs.
Well, probably since Ashley Cole, we've probably been lacking a bit in that position.
Yeah, it's been quite some time since England have had a good left back, and Scotland have a fantastic one, and it's wasted in Scotland, unfortunately. But yeah, he's a fantastic player. The way he runs up the wing, he's one of the brightest sparks in a very injury riddled Liverpool team at this point. And I think that he's showing so many good qualities that no one would have predicted when he was lining up against, with Harry Maguire at Hull. No one would have thought that he would become arguably the best left back in the world.
Yeah, well, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but I think it was like 5 million you got him in from Hull. And when that whole team did go down, there were clear players there which could have been saved. One of those players being Harry Maguire. Obviously, we saw him go off to Leicester. And then obviously we saw Andy Robertson go off to Liverpool. And it's one of those transfers where it's like, I think every Premier League looked at it and saw what kind of happened, but no one reacted quick enough. I think Liverpool were very quick to the mark, and they possibly thought they were getting a squad player, but the performances coming in, and and wow, I mean, look at the player he is now. I mean, I'm not sure. I think he's been at Liverpool for a good 3-4 years now, 3-4 years.
It's been a while since Liverpool have had a left back as good as Andrew Robertson. I can't actually remember a left back that is as good as Andy Robertson at this point.
Jose Enrique,
Not as good as Andy Robertson.
Alberto Moreno, no.
Oh, go get in the bin. It took me a while to figure out you were taking the mick there.
No, but I think obviously we'll go through a little bit later. We've got more to talk about Robertson as the episode goes on. But right now, Team of the Year, I think he is a mainstay. And I think just so we can get a Liverpool quadruple out of the way now, we'll go to the first centre back position and we'll get it out of the way. He's injured now, but you can't deny him, can you? From the first half of the year.
No, you can't. And the Dutch destroyer is here to stay in the Team of the Year, and that's Virgil van Dijk. And you can't deny, as you say, you can't deny him. He's unstoppable. You instantly come up against him in any sort of team, and you fear him. Defensively, Liverpool are safe when he is on the pitch. Any centre back looks like that partners with Van Dijk looks good because they have him covering. They can take more risks. Matip looked great last season. Joe Gomez looked great last season because they had Van Dijk covering. And I think that's where Trent is a bit missing at the moment because he doesn't have Van Dijk covering.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that defensive acumen that could potentially allow him to make more risks, which is what he's missing so far. Van Dijk is just that ultimate barrier.
I think that's an interesting point that you said there about Van Dijk making defenders look good. And I feel like a lot of Liverpool fans almost take that to offence when mentioning some of their other players that they've gotten. No offence meant by it. I mean, Joel Matip, I think, is a competent defender. I don't think he's the best in the world. I think if you look at the transfer, you got him on a free, you can't really complain. I think he's an okay defender to have around the club. And Joe Gomez is only going to get better with time. And a lot of people are saying, oh, but I think Joe Gomez at the moment, I think he's nothing special. I think he's kind of in my opinion, I think he's kind of an average defender who's going to get better with time. And obviously, if he's playing alongside Virgil van Dijk the majority of his weeks when they're both fit and firing, he's what a better teacher to learn from. But I think Van Dijk does have that ability. He does drag levels of ability up around the players around him, and those players around him are already arguably world class.
It's as if Klopp has instilled Van Dijk into a sort of mentoring role every time he steps out onto the pitch.
Yeah.
Every time he steps onto the pitch, he looks to make that centre-back partnership work. And if he will communicate constantly with his centre-back partner, and that's what makes him great, he will go, okay, you go over, I'll stay back, I'll cover. And if you make a mistake, I'll pick up the scraps. And that's where, I think that's where the team will be heading towards. I mean, you mentioned Matip as well. He's really good. I mean, that assist that he made to Mane against the who did we? I don't know. The assist to Mane the other night. My memory's gone blank. The assist to Mane the other night was fantastic. But yeah, Virgil van Dijk. I don't think anyone gets near him.
No, I think he is right now. Just again, he's injured at the moment, and it's a serious injury. So when he gets back, we can only hope he's the same player he was. I mean, you see in the training videos he's posting online, he's already up on his feet, which is a good sign for all Liverpool fans. But moving away, finally, a position, it could have easily have been Liverpool potentially. The second centre-back position was a very tough one because there were options all over the Premier League. I think we both looked quite heavily at Leicester with Soyuncu heavily. I think he was a very good shout. I think Johnny Evans also had a very good season. You could have looked at a lot of the players. I mean, even at Sheffield a good defensive outlets this season, but it was hard finding a definitive person who shone out, wasn't it? I mean, Laporte was the first name probably you think of, but I don't think it was as prominent.
No, but I think one name stands above more, and we technically are staying in Merseyside for this one. We are going to a Scouser born and bred, and that's the Wolves captain Connor Cody. No one would have thought they would be saying this at the beginning of the year. I especially didn't. I didn't think Cody was that great before, but he's stepped into another level. Even when he was on the international stage, he was hitting strides that no one else thought he would hit, and it's working for him. And I think, if anything, this January could be a massive month for him if he gets the move that he deserves, pretty much.
It's tough. I don't think he'll be going anywhere in January. I think they'll be interested in him, and I think he is a very very good player at Wolves. He's strong, commanding. He's a very good captain, and you see him. You know, he has all the traits of a captain which you would want at your club. And obviously, he came originally from Liverpool and kind of made a name for himself in this Wolves team. He's been a mainstay for quite a while, and he's been there amongst so many, foreign imports coming into the team from all over the world. A lot of Portuguese players, and he's been a mainstay in that team. He hasn't lost his position, and he's kept that captain's armband. So I think that deserves to be credited quite a lot. I think a lot of people would be maybe a little bit iffy on whether Cody is the right person for the team of the season, team of the year rather. But obviously he normally occupies his role as part of a back three, and then we've recently been seeing Wolves occasionally deploy a four. And, there's a lot of questions about whether he could maybe fit in for England if he is going to be part of a back three or a four. But I think really when you boil it down, I think he had an impressive season. I think, like you said, he is potentially worthy of a move. Whether that will happen or not, as he's the captain, as he's one of Wolves' best players, it's a lot of grey areas, but potentially could be something to keep a tab on in the future.
I mean, with his performances, I know that there's a history of England managers not wanting to go to the smaller clubs, and that is a fact. They don't exactly rely on form nowadays. They rely on the name of the club that they're at. So hopefully, if Cody does get a move, he will get more time in the England squad because he is good enough. And we have been clambering for some really good centre backs. Maguire's good, but I think Maguire and Cody, I think that would be phenomenal together.
There's a lot of questions. We'll have to see. Wait to the next England setups. I have to see what we go with because I think there's still a lot of questions that need ironing out. But Cody could well be included in that fray. But moving on to the midfield, 3 midfield positions we've gone with. It gets a little bit more tasty now. Pretty obvious choices, I think. But we'll start off with. We'll get out of the way. We'll get out of the way.
I want you to say his name, Joe. I want you to say his name.
Jordan Henderson at CDM.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Yeah, Jordan Henderson. What can you say? Premier League winning captain. He's going to probably go down as probably one of the best Liverpool captains ever. One of. You can't argue with facts at this point. He's won the Premier League. Gerrard didn't do that.
I can't argue with a Champions League medal and a Premier League medal around his neck. I can't argue that, but Jordan Henderson's obviously he's an established footballer. He's established himself as part of that Liverpool team, which is what I will say. I think a lot of the time, I think his game has improved significantly. I do not think he's a bad player. I don't think Jordan Henderson's a terrible player. I think he has a lot of attributes which I think are admirable on the pitch. And he clearly, the one thing that I've never faulted the man on is his passion for his club. And I feel like that's the one thing which in the past has maybe excused him a little bit or carried him a bit. I feel like, he's passionate about the club. He loves the club. And it's like, well, I hope he does. He's your captain. He should be. But obviously some Premier League captains aren't that passionate about the club. You can see in the games, but he certainly is. Undoubtedly Liverpool through and through. He's there for that club. So and like you said, he was a Champions League winning captain. He's a Premier League winning captain. He deserves to be in there.
Exactly, and I'm glad to hear that you're saying that, Joe. But yeah, you can see. Like I remember a lot. I wasn't sold on Henderson. 2013, 14, and a lot of my Liverpool fan friends would always say, "Oh, just watch what he does off the ball," and I wasn't convinced. And it's only recently, the last 3 or 4 years, where he has become Liverpool captain and he's evolved into that role. He's become more than just an average centre midfielder. He has become probably one of the better centre midfielders in the league. His leadership and his passion, he likes to do the dirty work. I forgot to say this about Connor Cody. That's exactly what he likes to do as a defender. And Henderson is always there. He's always reliable for the pass back if he needs. He can get up. He can score. Henderson can score a goal as well. He'll sit on the outside of the box, and he can shoot.
Yeah, he can.
I think that Henderson is a very good all-around centre midfielder. He's a very good box-to-box midfielder, is Henderson.
I don't think he's the most glamorous. I feel like there are a lot of box-to-box midfielders which maybe do it with a little bit more flair, but you cannot argue with the medals, can you? You can't argue with them. But moving on, you got. I'll give you one. You got to let me have one now. You got to let me have one.
Super Bruno, eh?
Yeah, Super Bruno. what is there to say about him? You know, uh, he's literally has single-handedly changed the entirety of Man United.
Um, well, to an extent, yeah. I mean, to be fair, you've got a title challenge this year. You're in the top four instead of floundering in kind of the top eight and hoping to stick in Europe. Whereas now you've kind of got a Champions League fight on. You've got Bruno. You've had Bruno for the entirety of the year, and he's had time to gel with the squad. Um, the team is built around him now.
Yeah.
You don't care if Pogba leaves because he can easily go. He can cash in on money, and that can be invested somewhere else. McTominay's filling Pogba's role at this point. Bruno
I think
is amazing.
he's incredible. The problem is though is when he's out of that team,
Mm.
because I think it was West Ham, and we were against West Ham, and obviously we were down at half time, and it looked dire. It looked completely dire. And then I think Ollie wanted to try and rest him a little bit because he's been played so much this season. But the guy just loves football. He absolutely loves it. He gets brought on, completely changes the game. Undeniably, his goals, his assists, his passing, his passion for the team as well. You see it in Bruno. He really wants to play for the club. He wants, everything to go well, and he wants the best for the players around him. And that's something which we have lacked for a very, very long time. And I'm very happy to see it in him.
It's a player with a lot of passion because he's been flowering in a couple of leagues and a couple of teams that aren't exactly the greatest. I mean, he was at Sporting Lisbon. Before that, I think it was Udinese, and he really started to become a player in Portugal. But we didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And players have been bought from the Portuguese league, many times, and they've not worked out. But for some reason, this Bruno Fernandes kid, oh, he's great.
No, he is, and I don't have enough praise for him, honestly. Like I said, I've said it before on the podcast. I haven't seen a January signing come in and make that much impact on a team ever. I cannot remember. He's the best signing we've made since Ferguson.
Virgil came in January.
Virgil came in January, but one thing I will say is that Liverpool were already, you already had world-class players around you. You already had a very established team. There was just one maybe last missing piece of the puzzle. I could say Virgil probably goes into that mix, but you've had a lot of good signings already. There was already world-class around him. I think Bruno came in and made a team who were absolutely, hopeless,
diabolical,
semi-competent. He does we've still got so much work to do. But Bruno, a team of the year, I think no doubt he's in there. And I think he's probably, if it wasn't for the next man we're putting in, arguably the best midfielder in the league at the moment. But well, at the moment, I say team of the season, that's another conversation to have. But in terms of team of the year, you have to put him in, big KDB. Yeah. He's got to be in there, isn't he?
Yeah, Kevin, the Belgian. It's always got to be a Belgian, in the words of Spen Doggy Dog. But he's what is there not to say about him? He's got so many world-class qualities, and arguably one of the best centre midfielders or centre attacking midfielders in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any debate about it. I think before we go into a bit more into Kevin De Bruyne, this is some of the competition he had. So I think this is definitely why he was in there. So we've got Jordan Henderson and Bruno Fernandes already. Rodrigo could have had a shout. Wilfred Ndidi, and also N'Golo Kante. There's a name that isn't in there that would have played in a sort of central attacking midfielder role, and I'll give him a mention later. When we'll probably mention him in the team of the season so far as well. But Kevin De Bruyne is out of this world when it comes to passing ability. He's had a bit of a slow start to this year, but last season he was phenomenal, and he was one of the. He got injured last year, and that's kind of why why City fell off a little bit, is because they lacked that creativity from De Bruyne. But as soon as he came back into the team, wow, there was new lease of life in that City team, and Pep Guardiola he was integral to stay for Pep to stay.
Yeah, genuinely, and I think that was one of the big key things. There was a lot of questions whether Pep was going to stay. There was a lot of questions that if he goes, is there going to be a massive exodus of players? Are they going to get Champions League football? There was loads of conversations around Man City from last season. But Kevin De Bruyne is just one of these players, which I wonder how much he'd cost now, because I think Man City got him for around 60 million from Wolfsburg when they bought him in. Crazy to think that was where he was before they picked him up, obviously, formerly at Werder Bremen, and before that Chelsea, as the famous series of events go. He's definitely one that slipped through the fingers of Chelsea. And now I think his class and his talent is just undeniable. And obviously with Manchester City, he's very fortunate. He's got world-class players all around him, just like, if he was in another kind of team like a Real Madrid or Liverpool, there's players all around him. And I think wherever he goes next, if there was a move for him in the future, he's going to have that same outlet. He's going to have world-class players around him. But what he does on his own, his goals, his assists, the passing is the best in the Premier League, I think, a lot of the time. Just a clever footballer, and he's still got so much more to offer, but undoubtedly team of the year. But like we said, we'll probably mention him a little bit more for team of the season, just because this so far has been a little bit slower for him. But team of the year, 100% agree.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we move on to the forwards. The front three. Anyone could be in these positions. There's a lot of players that did have a very good back end of last season. There's a man that was almost tipped for the Golden Boot that didn't quite make it. The man that actually kind of won the Golden Boot didn't make it. And that's because of certain displays in the early goings of the season. But I think we'll go on over to the right hand side of the forward, the front three. Sorry, Joe, we're going back to Merseyside. Again, we both agreed on this team, and it's undeniable that these players have to be in there. Mohamed Salah, who has reportedly been a bit unhappy as of recently at Liverpool. Apparently, according to reports, was a bit upset that he wasn't given the captain's armband for a Champions League tie. And there have been some reports that he might be looking for a move. But it would be such a waste for him to move right now. I mean, you go into a Real Madrid team and you might have the Eden Hazard effect. You might not make the impact that you want and be that world-class player. But at the moment, where'd you get better than Liverpool? Mo Salah is his ability on the ball, his ability to glide past defenders with ease. It was quite something to see playing against. He had fun against West Brom. It was just a shame that he couldn't create many other chances or any shots for himself. But yeah, what can you? He does have a tendency to be selfish at times, but that's what you got to be as a striker. I mean, when you've got Firmino, who's a defensive striker in the team, you have to be the one to score the goals because you don't have a striker that is an out and out striker. So I think Salah is arguably one of the best wingers in the world.
Yeah, I think he 100% is, and I think he will. If he keeps it up, if he stays at Liverpool and he keeps up the kind of record he goes down, he could go down as the best right winger in the Premier League. He could do. He could well do. And his goal output is scary. It is absolutely scary. And he was a great. When you look back at it now, everything about Liverpool's transfer business in the last few years, it's just been right. They've just got everything right. And Salah was one where they brought him into the club and everyone was a bit like, hang on a minute, what? Like, Chelsea reject, firing at Roma. There's no guaranteed recipe for success if he comes to the club. And look at it now. He is genuinely one of the most. We again reference this podcast we've done before. If you haven't seen it, go and check out our Marketable Footballers podcast. He's one of the most valuable stock footballers in the world. He's one of the best naturally talented goal scorers in the world as well. And he offers so much to that Liverpool team. I think you said it yourself. He occasionally has a tendency to be a little bit greedy. Maybe he doesn't get the pass off right away. I think he is very goal hungry. And like you said, if he does move from Liverpool, I think a lot of clubs he could go to would be a bit underwhelming. PSG, great club, terrible league. Real Madrid, Barcelona, two clubs at the moment in Barcelona certainly in turmoil, but Real Madrid are definitely in a bit of a quieter phase right now as well. Not as exciting as it once was there. And then you got other super clubs, Juventus, maybe Atletico. There's a lot of other clubs potentially in the mix, but a lot of it seems quite underwhelming. So I think Liverpool is the best place for him, and unless there's a plan to cash in on him for a lot of money, which hopefully you would get if you were going to sell him. But as the right wing position, it was undeniable, and I feel like going over to the left wing position, it was certainly more difficult because there were two names really
Yeah.
and we've gone for one, but the other person, it could have easily have been the other person.
Definitely, definitely. Before that, actually, I want to just ring back to Salah for a second,
Mm.
because I have quite an interesting stat, and it has been posted on social media quite a bit. But yeah, I just thought this would be quite important to mention that Salah's only 21 goals from being the highest scoring winger in the Premier League history. That would be overtaking Ryan Giggs, who has currently played 497 games more. That just kind of shows the quality of Salah at the minute and how integral he is to this Liverpool side. But yeah, as we say, we go over to the left wing, and a lot of people would have, especially with the start of the season he's had, a lot of people would have gone with Heung-min Son. But we didn't.
Mm.
We're staying in Merseyside, and we're going with the man that scored against West. It was West Bromwich Albion we played the other night. There we go. My memory goes blank. It's snowing here. There's a lot of distractions. But yeah, Sadio Mane. Um, Again, what a player! I think in terms of ability, compared to a man like Mo Salah, completely different. Completely different
Yeah.
terms of style of play. Mane's phenomenal when he gets into the box, and he's looking to kind of be a poacher when he's around the box. The Matip assist, he took it down really well, and he put it into the net. He was already in the box. He's very good at getting into positions, but also his speed is undeniable. What a speedster he is,
Yeah.
and what an overall good guy as well. I mean, he's doing a lot of work over in his home nation as well, building a lot of schools and hospitals. So not only is he a great player, he's a great man. And
Yeah.
another left winger that also kind of has that ringer is Marcus Rashford, who didn't quite make it as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, Mane again, he's amazing.
Yeah, he is, and like you said, a good personal round. But his output, I think, a couple of seasons ago, maybe even like from last year, I think he was up there with the conversation of potentially best attacker on the planet. There was periods of time where I think he was that prominent. It's just the overall existence of Messi and Ronaldo is just this generation of football. There's been a lot of people who have gone under the radar due to how unbelievably good Messi and Ronaldo are. But Sadio Mane genuinely, again, him and Salah just it's like this, isn't it? Like 1 minute it's undeniably Salah, he's the best. And then it's like, oh my god, hang on a minute, Mane is the best. And then it's like an internal battle at your own club. I mean, right now, if we're looking at the season that we're having at the moment, Salah is he can't stop scoring. But him and Mane, I think both equally brilliant. Not too much else to say. I think they're just fantastic players. But going to the striker position as well, that again, a lot of players that could have gone there. But if we're taking in this season into consideration as well, I'm happy with the choice. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think I think Mane here is. I mean, if you're gonna have some players with Mane and Salah in the team, you've got guaranteed goals there. And if one of them has an off night, the other one picks up the slack.
Yeah.
And if both of them have an off night, we've got the probably one of the perfect strikers to contend with that. And he's always in the right position. He can get the goals if provided the service from either winger or one of the fantastic creative midfielders that we've got there. And that is, we're actually going down to the south into tier four to Tottenham. We're going for Harry Kane, and we could have gone for his wing partner in Son for the strike for this attacking three, but we decided to go with Mane instead. But we have to give it to Harry Kane. Harry Kane this season in so far has been phenomenal as well.
Yeah, he has been. He's been absolutely incredible. And this season so far, he's probably been in the form of his life, I think. And there's been a lot of seasons where you could reference that too. But his assists, his goals, I think this season it's undeniable how talented Harry Kane is. And there were a lot of questions, only not very long ago, whether Tottenham was the right club for him, whether he was going to stay at Tottenham, whether he was going to potentially be tempted away with a move with all the Maurizio Pochettino, stuff with him being sacked from the club. Maurizio Pochettino, actually a manager, looking like he's going to be assigned to PSG, which is definitely not the location I thought he would be going to. And it wasn't too long ago that we were doing our podcast on the Premier League's arguably best duo in Kane and Son. And like I said, it's a crime almost that Son hasn't been included in this team. He was included in the official Sky Sports team of the year. I think it was one area we disagreed on, but Son is someone we are going to be talking about a little bit more in the episode. But yeah, I'm happy with Kane being in there. And there were other strikers which could have been in there. It seems like really harsh to admit some of the great strikers we had in the Premier League from last season and following through to this year, but for me, it's got to be Kane.
Yeah, I can go through some of the forwards that we missed out on. Obviously, we had Salah and Mane. As previously mentioned, we had Marcus Rashford, who has matched his ability on the field with his passion and uh, hard work off the pitch as well. Um, yeah, we've got Harry Kane in there. This is just the list of the short list that we've got. Heung-min Son, again, world class talent, amazing on the ball, and again, someone that we're probably going to look at next. Someone who's adopted a new like forward position, playing on the wing. Someone that we could mention later as well in Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
Jamie Vardy, who I believe won the Golden Boot last year. Aubameyang, who again had a fantastic year with Arsenal, but this season, sorry, been pretty poor.
Yeah.
Danny Ings, who I think was phenomenal last year, had probably the season of his life
Mm.
in the season just gone, especially when football returned. And also, finally, Raul Jimenez from Wolves, who I think if we were looking at a Premier League Team of the Year for 2019, I think we might have gone for Raul Jimenez there because he was on fire throughout that year. But this year, it's not quite been his year, and obviously he's been injured the last couple of weeks, so he can't exactly feature as of yet. So yeah, that's kind of that's the team, and that's kind of all the honourable mentions that we have.
Well, we will have a graphic put on our social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, showing our team of the year. But moving on, we did decide to do a little team of the season so far, just based on some statistics and just players that we've been really interested in this season. And we would like to see what you guys think about this so far. I think a lot of these players are like, yeah, 100%. A few of them might be a little bit surprising, but based on statistics and all the stuff we've seen so far, I think a lot of these players are definitely worth talking about. But starting off in the goal position, there are a couple of goalkeepers where I've been particularly impressed with this season. I think one of them's been Hugo Lloris over at Tottenham. I think he's been very good. He's always been a good keeper, Lloris, but there's just been, I think, some of the team around him, sometimes he makes a few rash decisions. But so far, I think he's been very level-headed in the goal, and Tottenham have obviously been in very good form, which does reflect the team that we are going to mention. But my goalkeeper that I've gone with, I think you agree with me on this, was Emi Martinez over at Aston Villa, who was a fantastic signing, an absolutely brilliant signing. I think Emi Martinez. I think he was brilliant. I think it was at the start of the season. I think Villa may have been still predicted to be going down by us, and then it was whether the signing they spent so much money last season and it didn't work out. And I was thought like, well, if they're going to do exactly the same, they need to have more calculated signings. And the signings they have made, a couple of them are in this team. A couple of them are in this team, and another player's in this team. Yet Emi Martinez with 8 clean sheets so far this season. He's at the top of all clean sheets, and he's been the difference for Villa in some games. Villa are still a team which aren't the finished article, and he has been excellent.
Yeah, I think with Aston Villa, it's been a very impressive window for them in the summer. You look at how they spent last season. They just spent it willy nilly because they could. They had all this money injection because they got promoted, and they spent it in so many of the wrong areas. And this year, they've focused on what they actually need to fit the pace of the Premier League. Emi Martinez, it's not just a good signing for Aston Villa. It's a fantastic signing for his career because he's gunning for that number one spot in the Argentinian squad.
Yeah,
So there is that. He's fighting for his place, and he's going to get it because he's fantastic.
yeah,
There are a lot of other positions that have been improved upon as well. Bertrand Traore has been a fantastic signing. Again, quick, agile, it fits the Premier League mold. And again, Ollie Watkins, who unfortunately put 3 past Liverpool. He's fast and he's agile and he fits the Premier League mold. And I think that's crucial.
yeah,
Someone that we're going to mention a bit later to put all these balls into the box or give a ball on a plate for Ollie Watkins or Bertrand Traore, and they're going to score. Or there's fantastic defenders that have backup as well with Emi Martinez. So
yeah.
it was undeniable what Emi Martinez him being in this team. I would like to give a little shout out because this wasn't one of the names that you put down on the shortlist, but I definitely thought that he is one of the glimmering sparks in a Newcastle side that's kind of floundering, and that's Carl Darlow, who I think could be in with a shout of a potential England call up if he improved a little bit more.
Oh, I feel like I could see where you're coming from, but I think there's a lot to him potentially. I think in exactly the same argument as Cardalo, I would also counter that with Sam Johnston over at West Brom, who I think has been really good for West Brom. I just think the West Brom team is poor, and I feel like now that you've got Big Sam in to save the day, I think because against United, Sam Johnson, ex-United player as well, I think he was the man of the match. He was incredible. I think he's been like that for quite a few Premier League games, and I feel like Cardalo and Sam Johnson could be it could be much of a muchness in my opinion. I think both of them are good English goalkeepers, but I feel like they're a bit off the mark to go to the top spot.
Darlow has a save percentage that's the top. I think it's 76% of the shots that he has faced, he's saved, and that's the top of the Premier League.
Yeah, no,
at the moment.
He's a good player, man. He's a good player, but I feel like there's a lot of competition out there, and one of those people being Emi Martinez easily walking into this team. I feel like the transfer was cheap. It was good. It was from Arsenal, who Arsenal are having arguably, well, no, it's not even arguably. It's the worst season.
They're relegation candidates for the most of the season until they beat Chelsea, I guess.
Beat Chelsea 3-0. You never know. It could be in for a revamp, but Emi Martinez, a great inclusion into this. And if we move on to the right back position, we'll stay actually with Villa. With Matty Cash. Matty Cash, who I've had a little scan on, and he's someone that I wanted to include in this team. In terms of fullbacks, I think there's been a few that have interested me this season. There's definitely been one which I will mention in the honourable mentions, but Matty Cash, 36 clearances he made so far, which is I think the third highest in the Premier League out of everybody. But in that fullback position, he was again signed for cheap. He was signed from a lower league, but a good player. So a lot of teams I think were probably keeping tabs on him. But you've got to be quick to the mark, haven't you? You've got to get these players quick, get them into the club, and that's exactly what Dean Smith did. And I think the signing, if you compare the kind of signings he made this year to last year, they're so much more calculated. If you look at him now, look in hindsight now, they're so much more calculated. I mean, I still felt there were question marks at the start of the season based on what they already had, but Villa will be safe this year. Villa will be safe. And Matty Cash and Emi Martinez are part of that. But I feel like he was a very good inclusion at right back.
Matty Cash, coming from Nottingham Forest, he had a fantastic year in himself last year in the Championship. So I think it was only a matter of time before a Premier League side did pick him up, and Villa were just that quick to get him. So Matty Cash is one of those. I would have predicted that. Watching the Liverpool game against Leeds, I thought Ayling was going to be one of those that were up there so far.
I think he's in the conversation. I think he's been good.
Definitely, but Matty Cash is he's had he's part of the success, and as you say, they've been way more calculated with their signings this season, and they identified a spot that they needed to improve, and Matty Cash has been that. I don't think there's anything else more you can say. There's no negatives really. He's had a fantastic year.
He has been very good so far. I think it will be very interesting to see how he adapts in the second half of the season. But moving on to the defensive partnership, and again, a very surprising defensive partnership. I'll start with the first position. We go to Tottenham, and it's Eric Dyer. It's Eric Dyer, which is mental. It is Eric Dyer. He has had 46 headed clearances this season, where he is number one in the season, and I think he's joint first in terms of clearances, just general clearances, with 73 with the guy we partnered him with. Tottenham have obviously been very good so far this season. There's been a few times where they've looked a little bit shaky in more recent games. So obviously Mourinho has got Tottenham in a good spell of form, which I think was, it was always in their capabilities, but, a lot of that is reliant on what they're putting out up front. The whole team have worked really well together. Reguilon was a good signing. Lloris has been in good form. But Eric Dyer has been one of the real surprised kind of inclusions. Mourinho tends to do this at clubs. He kind of finds a player that he really likes and really nurtures them, and Dyer is someone who is kind of a similar background to Mourinho in a sense. They both grew up in Portugal, so they both speak the language. People forget, but Dyer actually from Cheltenham, from around my neck of the woods, but raised over in Portugal. And him and Mourinho just seem to have gelled really well. And I feel like the faith that Mourinho's shown in him has been a large part of why he's been so good this season. So as one of the centre back inclusions so far, I feel like he is a mainstay, and I think he's knocking on England's door if he keeps the performances up in the centre back role and isn't floundering between CDM and centre back. If he finds a position he's good at, which he has found, I feel like it could be the regeneration of Dyer. I thought his Tottenham days were numbered, but yeah, he's definitely come back more into the team.
It did seem that way, didn't it? Dyer he was kind of down in the dumps. He didn't play for a time, and we kind of saw his discretion last season with the documentary that came out. There was a lot of questions about Eric Dyer, whether he would play, and Mourinho this season's very he's been adamant to put him in that centre back spot, and why wouldn't you after the departure of Jan Vertonghen? You need someone to fill that role.
Yeah,
he obviously doesn't feel that. I don't know if there's injuries involved or anything, but if he obviously doesn't feel that Alderweireld and Davinson Sanchez are doing a good enough job. So why not stick your centre? I mean, he's great at putting in tackles. It's like we said earlier with Cody and Henderson. He's someone that likes to get in there and do the dirty business. So Eric Dyer for me, I think he has to be here. And when you said this name, I was surprised, but then the stats kind of don't lie, do they? So
they don't lie.
who is his centre back partner?
It's actually Federico Fernandez at Newcastle, believe it or not. At the moment, 19 blocks in the league. He ranks the top in terms of the blocks in the league, and also joint 73 clearances with Eric Dyer. I think, like you said, the Newcastle team is not exactly the finished article. I think when Steve Bruce took over, there was a lot of grumbling around the club, but I think Bruce has done fair. He's done okay. Oftentimes the football isn't the best, but occasionally does the job. And there are a lot of players there which I feel like are, good inclusions into that team. I think Lascelles and Fernandez, as centre backs are very good. I feel like you said we already mentioned Cardalo. There's obviously players like St. Maximin at the club. Newcastle have got good players, and they're definitely a club which could potentially, be projected and be something. But Federico Fernandez, if he, with this kind of output that he puts into the club, like you can't argue with the stats. You just can't. It's
No,
that simple. You can't argue with it. He's not the most glamorous, but you can't argue with the stats.
no. Watching this Newcastle team, I watched the game against Manchester City, and it was very, very, to pardon the pun, dire. But it's kind of. I mean, I'm not even sure Fernandez was playing. I think Schär and Lascelles. And you can see where the troubles were lying in terms of that match. Fabian Schär, he was great last season, but he just wasn't. He's not just not up to scratch this season. Let's be honest. And same with Lascelles. I think he's kind of floundering as well. He's a great captain, but he's not exactly in terms of what Newcastle are needed. And in terms of blocks, it just shows how leaky that Newcastle defense is and how vital Federico Fernandez has been. I mean,
Yeah,
save percentage with Carl Darlow and the blocking of Federico Fernandez has stopped Newcastle and potentially earned them a point or two more than they would have, which is, it's key. He's winning games for them, and
yeah,
it just shows that Steve Bruce needs this kind of character in the side. He needs that sort of role model for the other centre backs, and he's an aging player. He is an aging player, but so he's not going to be around for much longer. So Newcastle need to invest very quickly into someone like this.
yeah. And moving on now to going to the left position, the final position to complete this back four. Not too much to say. We've already mentioned this guy before. It is Andrew Robertson. But so far this season, just a couple of stats just to solidify why he's in there so far. He's had 1,556 touches so far in the Premier League. He's had the most of the ball in the Premier League out of every player, and he's actually committed 128 crosses, which is the first in the league. Whoever's second in the league is someone we will mention a little bit later into this team. But not lingering too much on Robertson. We've already spoke about how good a player he is. It just shows why he's here, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably best to mention some of the defensive honourable mentions that we had as well.
Yeah,
In the same position, we got Ben Chilwell. We had a great transfer to Chelsea. He scored pretty much on it straight away. Luca Digne as well for Everton, who has been integral in their dominance. I mean, where are they now? Are they? I think they're still second.
they're still second. I mean, he's got an injury knock at the moment, but he is still a fantastic player in that
Yeah.
Everton team.
In the centre back spots, someone that you didn't even consider, but I think is having a fantastic season, partnering with Ben Chilwell, and that's Kurt Zuma. I think he's great in the air. He's
Yeah.
physically so strong. He can muscle forwards off the ball with ease, and I think that he's playing the best football of his career so far.
Mm.
And also a new signing for the Premier League this season, Wesley Fofana,
Yeah,
who has had quite a he's coming to this Leicester team. So Unku had the season last year. It's always got to be a Leicester defender that's that's coming into to these team of the seasons. So Wesley Fofana is had a great season so far, and it's going to be a matter of time before he becomes world class because he's still young and he's putting in performances like this, and he's going to be one to watch going
yeah,
forward in the league.
yeah.
And then going to the right back position, we have Lamptey, who I know that you're quite a big fan of as well.
Yeah, I'm a real big fan of them. I feel like he's obviously young. He's got a lot to work on. Another player which Chelsea have let slip through the ranks. Obviously, they do have Reece James. It was a fantastic player as well. But I feel like he offers something really different at right back, and he's definitely one to keep an eye on for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and then the last one that we've got is when mentioning the right back position, you can't not mention we've spoken the praises of Trent Alexander-Arnold before, but what kept him out of the team really is his inconsistency this season. Really, um, his as I said earlier, he lacks a lot of defensive qualities that Andrew Robertson has, and that's kind of why I wanted to justify Trent not being in the team.
Mm,
Matty Cash is showing what the defensive acumen that you need to be a top quality right back at the moment, and Trent is not exactly showing that. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and I do probably put that down to the injuries of the good centre backs. Playing with another young centre back like Reece Williams is probably not helping Trent defensively.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, those are just some of the honourable mentions for the defence. I think it's time that we go into that we take a little venture into the midfield.
Yeah, and there are again, there was a couple of people which I think was solidified, and then there was another position which I think there are a few people that were potentially there to occupy it. One of the people we've gone with at Southampton was James Ward-Prowse. The guy, 94 crosses in the Premier League so far this season, only second to Andrew Robertson, who's already a member of this team so far. And the scorer of 3 free kicks this season. He's actually scored the most free kicks so far this campaign. And his free kicks are something that he's always been known for. But I was only saying this to Reese the other day. I wonder what it would have been like in a different world if Ward-Prowse was picked up by a big club when he was younger and maybe didn't kind of stay at Southampton for as long as he has done. Because again, he's in incredible form now for Southampton, but you can't help but wonder, can you? What like if maybe a United, a Liverpool, a Chelsea, a City came and picked him up. I wonder where he would have been in his actual development as a player because he still has the potential to get a move. He isn't too far into his career, but he's I wouldn't really class him as a young player as much anymore. I think he's now kind of solidified as a Premier League regular Premier League player, I'd say.
Yeah, he's kind of like you sort of have your all-star players, your world star players, and you've sort of just got your Premier League starters. And I think Ward-Prowse does fit into the Premier League starter category. He's a
Yeah,
great player. His passing ability is what allows him to score those free kicks. Free kicks are about enabling yourself to bend it over a wall, get the right curvature on a pass, and stick it exactly where you need it to go. It's the same with a penalty. You need to pass it to the net. So Ward-Prowse, I think, is one of those players that are very good at free kicks because he's great at passing.
yeah, he's very composed. He's a composed footballer, and I definitely feel like he was the one that we were debating on a little bit because there were some other good players to mention, but I feel like he has been quite a standout player in that Southampton side. So I'm more than happy to have him in here alongside the next person I'm going to mention. It was obvious he was going to be in there. Is Bruno Fernandes. 16 goals and assists so far this season. And like we said, we've already mentioned Bruno, so we won't linger on him too much. But again, he has been the main man ticking over United. I think undeniable, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the second name that has kind of carried over from our 2020 Team of the Year. The second of 4 players in this team that will carry over from the Team of the Year. But Bruno Fernandes, yeah, we've said all we can really.
Yeah,
There's nothing bad that we can say about him. When he signed in January, I was hoping that there would be, but there isn't. I was hoping that it was just going to be another flop, but turns out that Man United have got a good one here, and
yeah, definitely.
it's been one of the best signings that United have made in quite some time.
Yeah, 100% agree. And on to another player which United were rumoured to have been going for, but now seems to be quite happy at the moment, I'd say. Still potential for him to leave the club, but it is the Aston Villa man, Jack Grealish. 11 goals and assists so far this season. A player never short of controversy, but a player who on the pitch he is exemplary. And, you know, he demonstrates so many good qualities on the pitch. He demonstrates leadership, flair, goal scoring ability, vision, assists. He has got it all, you know, and we've put him in the midfield here, and almost a little bit fraudulent. He could have been included in the attack, really. He mainly plays off the left nowadays, but centrally he has been known to occupy those roles, and he does do a good job in those particular positions. But, you know, we got to see Jack Grealish play for England. We got to see him do well for England. We got to see him do really well for Villa this season. And he summoned the Villa faithful will not want to leave. Will not want to lose, rather. So I feel like, you know, he could have been in the season team of the year, you know, really he could have been, but I think just a floundering Villa team, he was the only gem. But this season, thankfully, you know, the club have backed some more sensible signings, and they look a bit more of a well-rounded team now.
I think Grealish is one to look at for the next year. If Villa keep this up, we haven't seen a Villa team perform as well like this since John Carew, Gabby Agbonlahor, and stuff like that. So to see this Villa team doing this well, I mean, look back to 2021's Team of the Year. Come back to this spot in 2021. We'll let you know what our thoughts are on Jack Grealish in a year's time.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say there. But we did have a few honourable mentions for the midfield. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg at Tottenham, a player which, again, when Tottenham signed him, I think we both kind of agreed it was a bit of a. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I couldn't really see much much really him being made of that particular signing, but he has been excellent again. I think Mourinho's tutelage he's got the most out of him in that team, and he does look like a regular starter for them now. He looks like a real mainstay. Moving on a little bit more, Oriol Romeu over at Southampton. He's had the most tackles in the Premier League this season. 51 tackles he's made. Again, a really good central defensive member of the Southampton team. It could have easily been in this team, but I think Ward-Prowse did keep him out. And then one player which I've been extremely impressed with again this season over at Brighton has been Basuma, the central midfielder. He's been knocking around Southampton for quite a while now. Brighton rather. He's been there for since around 2018, but he's made 45 tackles in the league this season, which I think is the fourth highest out of everyone. So had a lot of international interest. Real Madrid, PSG. So some big clubs have. And Liverpool have also been a club which have been kind of poking their nose around him. So it will be very interesting to see if Brighton can retain him going into the new season. And then the only other real person that I think was probably worth mentioning was N'Golo Kante. But again, Chelsea have been a little bit shaky so far this season, but I think he has been one of the more standout players in that midfield. But now moving forward and moving on to the attack, two of the players, as Reece said, do carry over from the team of the year. We'll mention those guys now. They are Mohamed Salah and Kane. And Salah currently sits at 13 goals, top scorer. Kane currently has 19 goals and assists this season. Again, not too much to say for these guys we haven't already said. Kane's in some of the best form of his life. Salah, there's no stopping him scoring. What else is there to say?
There's nothing. You pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Some honourable mentions for the right wing spot. I think we could probably mention. I think Riyad Mahrez has had a pretty admirable start to the season in a struggling Manchester City side that hasn't really hit the qualities that they need to yet. Sterling's being allowed to play off the left, Riyad Mahrez on the right. I think both of those are good. They're just missing that piece up front. So Also, the Wolves duo, the Wolves wingers, not Adama Traore, as much as I'd love him to be here, but as everyone has seen the stat online that he hasn't scored a goal in a year, which maybe just needs more baby oil. But
Maybe a little bit more.
I think the Portuguese duo of Pedro Neto and Podence, they are phenomenal this season. I think Wolves have got off to a shaky start, and I think it is potentially down to their defensive qualities. I mean, they Cody is great, but you can't rely on him to do all the work. So I think Nelson Semedo has been a bit of a flop as a signing as of yet. There's still half the season to go, but Pedro Neto and Podence are two phenomenal players. I think could have made it in, but I think Salah is unmovable, much like Harry Kane is at the moment.
Yeah,
So many goals and assists. Some people that could have come for the crown, Vardy, Calvert Lewin, and someone that I thought has been really impressive that I mentioned earlier, Ollie Watkins.
yeah,
Obviously scored the hat trick against Liverpool, and he's been phenomenal. And I know that you have a name that no one thought at the beginning of this season. No one thought he was ready for the Premier League, and he showed that he wasn't ready for the Premier League before, but he's shown it now, and
yeah.
that's Patrick Bamford.
Yeah, but I mean, Patrick Bamford again. We had a Leeds podcast earlier on at the start of the season, and we did. It was all statistical. You just look at what Bamford has put out in the Premier League in recent years, and it just has not been up to scratch. He's gone down to the Championship, and he's found good form, and just whenever he comes back up to the Premier League, it just hasn't seemed to have worked. So it was definitely a guy. He was definitely someone who I wasn't convinced of that was going to be, fit and firing. But so far this season, he has been very good. So definitely worth a mention there. But I feel like in terms of all the honourable mentions as well, Diogo Jota, another good person who's been very prominent up front before injuries. Great signing from Wolves there. But Heung-Min Son didn't make the team ahead of Mane in last in the team of the year, just because I think we wanted to include both of them, but you can't deny Son this season. 15 goals and assists, Kane with 19 goals and assists. It's only December. We're about to go into January very soon. It's absolutely crazy. So Heung-Min Son, again, we've mentioned him before in our Marketable Footballers podcast. He's one of the most marketable players on the planet. He makes Tottenham so much money. He's so talented. I would love him. I would love to have him at the club. He's such a difficult player not to enjoy.
I read a stat somewhere that the majority of Korea are Spurs fans, which I think it equals out to about 20 million Koreans
Yeah,
support Spurs because of Heung-Min Son.
yeah.
I'll have to find the fact somewhere and post it because it's absolutely unreal when I read it.
It doesn't
Uh,
surprise me.
it doesn't when you think about it. Korea, when you've got small talent outside in the Western world, you're going to support that no matter what. So I think Son is a fantastic role model for all the Koreans that want to make it. I mean, there's more Koreans going out and playing in Europe now, which is fantastic. Kang In Lee, there's a player that plays in the Bundesliga now. Hwang Hee-chan as well,
Yep.
playing at Leipzig. So he's paving the way for a lot of Korean players, and his talent on the pitch is undeniable as well. That he won the goal of the season last year. Didn't he win the Puskas goal of the
Yeah.
year as well?
And that goal, if you look back on it now, it is incredible. He literally created that goal from inside the opposition half, did all the work himself. He's got that in spades. He's capable of doing that. So I think Son to complete the midfield, complete the attacking three rather. I feel like he is a perfect choice. But overall, a team of the year, a team of the season so far, two very good teams. We'd love to know what you guys think. Which team's better? Which teams you prefer? Which teams you disagree with? You can get in touch with us on all of our social media platforms. On Twitter, we are Pundits Average. On Instagram and Facebook, we are the Average Pundits. If you want to get a hold of us to potentially jump on the podcast, we are the Average Pundits at outlook.com. If you listen to us on streaming services, please give us a follow, share this podcast around. And if you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. The support recently has been absolutely brilliant.
I mean, we're growing in subs on YouTube, and the listening on Spotify and Apple Music. You can take us anywhere. So you driving around, you download us on Spotify or Apple Music. You listen to us anywhere. You listen to us on the bus, on a long train journey. Make sure you're wearing your masks for not sharing your COVID germs. But yeah, a few shout outs that I want to make. As you mentioned, we
Yes,
do go over to our Instagram, and some inclusions that we have had for our team of the year. So we have Adam Ali on Instagram said that KDB should be in the team of the year. Damon Coleman, who actually kind of suggested that we put Mane over Son. So thank you to you as well. Finn as well, who said that Bruno should stay in the squad. It's undeniable, really. Bruno
definitely.
was amazing, and Brad saying that he's been on the show before, and he's gone to bat for Jordan Henderson before, so he's in the team no matter what you say, Joe.
There you go. There you go, solidified. But thank you, everyone. We do encourage everyone, if you want to get involved, please do get involved. And more importantly, we hope everyone had a great Christmas. Hope everyone had a safe Christmas. Hope everyone's still being safe wherever they are listening to this around the world. Have a happy new year as well. When you see us next, it will be 2021. So we will see all of you guys next year. And thank you very much for enjoying a fantastic year of the Average Pundits. Reese, has been good, isn't it?
Let's hope next year's a bit better. I don't
Fingers
want to be
crossed.
working from home.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Well, thank you very much, guys, and we will see you in the new year.